You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hi, everyone. This week, my guest is Dani Wexelman. Dani is a host on SiriusXM MLB Network Radio, an ESPN play-by-play announcer, SNY TV studio analyst, and more. I can't wait for you to hear my conversation with Dani. She is a high-energy journalist and broadcaster, a gifted storyteller, and has built her career by following her passions and staying true to herself. We caught up a few weeks ago to explore her career and many of her success secrets. In our conversation, you'll hear lessons on creating your own career opportunities, building connections through storytelling, how to make your unique skills a superpower, and so much more. This episode is jam-packed and has something for everyone. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to Dani Wexelman. Welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, Dani.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. Obviously, the lineup that you've had here is ridiculous. So I actually am really humbled that you think that I can join the crew. So I'm excited to be here.
You are forever part of the Tarp Puller crew, Dani. We're going to get into your whole story. I want to ask you a question that I've asked a lot of folks, regardless of their career. And in your case, was there a moment that you heard a broadcaster or a journalist say something or write something and you said, I want to be just like them?
Yeah. And actually, it was probably writing before broadcasting because I wasn't always sure this is what I wanted to do. And I think that that's probably important to know is that not everybody is growing up with a microphone in their hand and dreaming of doing this. Sometimes dreams take longer to develop. But Dana O'Neill, she was writing for ESPN covering college basketball. And I remember actually reaching out to her when I was in college because I just thought her writing captured storytelling. And that's really what I do now more than anything. And so it was Dana O'Neill and her writing that just like the way she told the story and how she brought you into what was happening and made you feel like you understood that player or that game. And I just thought that that was really special. And I don't think that I was getting that in a lot of other places. So I reached out to her and she was so kind. She got back to me, which is crazy when you're in college, right? To actually get a response from somebody who's the caliber of talent that Dana O'Neill is. So that was probably the first time I was like, you know what, storytelling is pretty powerful.
What compelled you to write that note? Because I'm sure there's thousands of people out there who see someone or see something that they aspire to, and then they just don't take action. What do you think kind of bubbled up inside you to compel you to take that action and write that email?
Well, I was nervous, of course. Like it definitely wasn't like, oh yeah, she's definitely going to respond. I think that I like people and I'm interested in learning about people just as you are. Like at the root of what I like to do and what drives me is learning about people and sharing. And I just, first of all, wanted her to know that I loved what she did, but also just a little bit, that's your first introduction into how were you able to get to this point? How did you develop your skills? How did you form this sentence? Like if you look back at my tweets, I think I used to grab quotes from her stories and be like, this quote literally engulfed me and just made me sit back. I had to read it again. And so I just wanted to learn how she did that and just say hi and start to be like, I'm kind of interested in this too. Again, that was just back in college. It wasn't in high school. I was still trying to figure out where I fit in. I really didn't until later, but that was definitely a good first introduction into, okay, you have to reach out to people. You have to tell them who you are and then get to know them too.
From that point forward, what were some of the things that you did to kind of put in place the building blocks to start building your career and put yourself on a trajectory for some of those things that you were really motivated to achieve?
Oh my goodness. I would say that I built my own path, and I think I have always been the kid who had a lot of potential. I've heard that like my whole life, sometimes not necessarily in a loving way, but in a, I don't know if you're going to make it, but you have potential. And so I went to Mizzou. I studied broadcast journalism. That was an amazing foundation because you really get to learn, do you like this? Do you like doing this work? Because broadcasting is work. It's not get in front of the camera and have your makeup and hair done and have people giving you clothes and thousands of followers. Broadcasting and journalism specifically is work. And to tell the truth is work. And so at Mizzou, you really get a good feel for that. So I went there, and ultimately, when I graduated, I realized I didn't want to take the traditional route. I didn't feel like that was the best trajectory for me. I didn't think that that was going to be the route that could get me to where I thought I wanted to go when I was 22 years old. And looking back, you don't really know. You have no idea. But that's kind of where I took my path. And I was like, I want to work for a team. And so ultimately, I actually stayed at Mizzou for a semester. I couldn't get a job at a college. And I took a couple classes. I worked out at the station. And then I ended up getting my first gig in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I did pull the tarp. I worked for the Harrisburg Senators. They're AA for the Washington Nationals. And ultimately, I mean, I've built from there. It's a lot of kissing the frogs. It's a lot of, I don't like this, or I didn't get that job, so that's going to set me this way, right? Because what's meant for me isn't going to pass me by. I didn't know that back then, but all the rejections, the places that I didn't get, the jobs I didn't get, that was fine, because in this place that I've built from the ground up, so to speak. So I don't know if that specifically is what you're looking for, but I think it started honestly back at Mizzou, just going to journalism school.
I think that answers the question, Dani. And I'm curious, you mentioned earlier how people would tell you that you had potential. You might not get there, but you have potential. Did that scare you, or did that motivate you? What did hearing the words "you have potential" mean to you?
I think that when you're younger, it's hard to understand what that means because you haven't necessarily built that thick skin up yet. You haven't necessarily faced enough rejection to understand that it's not you, or that someone else's, my favorite line is, someone else's success is not your failure. But that's a really hard concept to understand when you just think you graduate and you're supposed to get a job. That's how it works. But I think what I've learned in this industry is that everything you get to do is a privilege. I actually rarely get say like, I have to do this. I am usually saying I get to do this. That's just something also, like, for my mind, if I don't love what I'm doing, I'm not going to default to, I have to go do this. It's, I get to do this because the job is a privilege. But I think when I heard that, I know, like, deep down inside of me, it made me want to run through a brick wall because, like, okay, for example, I played softball growing up, right? I batted second and I played second. I rarely let off. And I most of the time was sacrificing. I was pretty fast, so I could usually get a hit. But my job for most of my softball career was to move the runner over. And unbeknownst to me, like, that probably also has set the foundation for my life. But in the sense of, this is my job, and maybe you don't think I'm going to get on base because I'm always bunting. Like, every team knew what I was doing, but I would still get on. And so just the idea of, maybe you don't think I can be this or I'm going to get there, but I know exactly what I'm doing. And I know that you see potential, but I know that I can be so much more than that. So I think at the time, I wasn't as optimistic about that word, but I never let it take away from what I thought I wanted. Because ultimately, like, I really think I'm here to tell stories and to be in journalism and reporting. I think that's my why. I've really deep down known that for a really long time. And I think that's probably part of the reason that I've been able to sustain people saying things like, you have potential, or you're too nice, or you're too green, or you should stick to producing, or you're not going to make it. I mean, people say those things. They actually say those things to your face instead of allowing you to figure it out for yourself. They just decide it for you. And when someone decides it for me, not only does that make me want to prove them wrong, it makes me want to prove it to myself because I know why I'm here.
You've said the word storytelling a few times in our conversation already. And you also talked about the importance of identifying things that you don't want to do, right? I mean, in many cases, that's almost as important, if not more important, on your career journey to identify what you don't want to do as compared to the things that you do want to do. So what were some of the things that you had experienced and maybe said, this isn't for me, I'm going to pivot here? What were some of those experiences like?
Yeah.
Running into the things that maybe weren't for you?
I wish I had more of them, to be honest, when I was younger, because I tell people all the time, again, it's a privilege to make mistakes. So you should make as many as you can and get rejected as much as you can when you're starting out, because that means that you're growing. That means you're figuring out what's your voice. How do you tell stories? How do you communicate with people? How do you build relationships? How do you bounce back from not getting the job? Because more times than not, we don't get the job. And so how bad do you want it? What's your why? And so for me, when I did graduate and I got that job in Harrisburg, I left home, I left St. Louis, I drove all the way by myself and I had an internship, and there were parts of it that I didn't like. And I did it because inherently I knew, and that comes from playing sports, that you don't always love what you're doing. You're not always going to love. Sometimes I got put ninth in the order, right? Because my coach would say, well, you're like another leadoff person. I think batting ninth sometimes to a kid who's young, you're like, well, I'm not good. The other team's going to think I'm bad because I'm batting ninth. I'm the worst hitter. But ultimately, like, you still go out and you still put your best foot forward. So taking those lessons into the job. But really, I think I realized probably halfway through that season that working for a front office, at least in my immediate future, was not what I wanted. I was hired as the digital and social media intern. So that was part of my job. But I was also the mascot. And I went on mascot appearances. I wasn't on the field, but I went into the community, into the schools, into the Little League games as the mascot. I still get these like memories that smack me in the face whenever I smell Febreze and sweat mixed together, because that's what our costume was washed with. I cleaned bird poop off handrails. I swept spider webs before games under the bleachers. We pulled the tarp. We took trash out of the suites. We had to go in once a week and go in early to help the grounds crew clean the stadium. And so there's memories of me literally taking the trash out and being chased by bees through the concourse because there were bees around the trash from the night before. So I did all of those things. And listen, again, for me, I was glad for the experience, but I realized this isn't for me. And that's fine. I moved back home. I actually got out of sports. I worked for a company called Veterans United Home Loans, and I was telling military stories. That's a job that's like near and dear to my heart. I had a boss who let me color outside the lines. But again, I realized, okay, this is storytelling, but this is not the space I want to be. And so I need to move on again. And so I took a huge jump, my big risk, which was I reached out to a friend at MLB.com. And I literally wouldn't be sitting here without him. His name is Brian Mortensen. And I reached out. He went to Mizzou and I'm like, hey, are you guys hiring for any job? I'll take any job. And he's like, we are hiring for editors and producers. Mind you, I hate editing. I loathe editing. It's my least favorite thing. And it's probably half of the reason that I got the job. 3/4 of the reason I ended up getting that job is because I knew how to edit. I knew baseball and I knew how to edit. And that's what they were looking for. And so I got the job, which is what ended up bringing me to New York.
There's so much to unpack there, Dani. You're giving me the, I'm thinking about that smell of Febreze in the head of the Thunderbird that I dressed as when I interned for the Trenton Thunder, who at the time were the AA affiliate of the New York Yankees.
That's right.
I could add a few to your inventory there. I think I inflated moon bounces. I drove players to the airport. One of my favorites, my first day, I think I put a couple thousand stickers for sponsors onto cup holders. And I don't know if you ever did this, Dani, but I would pick up the debris from fireworks after fireworks nights because the wind blew it into center field.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me. I think I've blacked a lot of other things out from the experience. But you do it all and you don't complain, because the thing in sports that I don't love but exists heavily is you don't want to do it. There's a stack of 100 resumes on my desk of a kid who's dying to intern for a minor league team. So you do it.
That's right. And I want to put a pin in this story again of you emailed this friend, this person you knew from Mizzou. I kind of think back to that story you told earlier about emailing the journalist that kind of sparked your creativity and your energy. And you just asked, is there an opportunity? And you, like you said, you're sitting here probably in the roles that you're in today because of that email that you sent. I think so many people just don't send the email. They don't make the phone call. They don't go to that networking conversation. People need to take action. I've read that you have said, and this is a quote from you, sports possess the power to lift a nation off its feet, inspire and bring people together. And behind every athlete is a story waiting to be told. So you've talked about the power of storytelling. How do you, Dani Wexelman, identify stories that are right for you to tell and stories that are interesting to you to tell? What are you looking for?
A couple of things, actually. I have a few things that I think about all the time. Is this story going to inspire? Is it going to educate? Is it going to change somebody's mind? Those are probably like three of the pillars that I think about a lot when I go to tell a story. And I'll say too, I don't necessarily know if there's ever a story that's not right for me. I think in this space I've created for myself, well, I'll go back. So when I worked at the TV station in college, I had to do news. Woke up every morning dreading my shift. As a college student at Mizzou, you have to do the news shifts. You have to learn. And I would dread it because I didn't know how to come up with the story, or I didn't know if the story was good. And you have your assignment desk. They hand the story out to you sometimes, but sometimes you come up with it yourself. That's really hard. But what I learned was you can tell any story and you can do the story justice. It boils down to you ultimately in putting in the time and effort. So I don't know if I would ever think about a story that I couldn't tell, so to speak, depending upon the task. But I think those pillars are really important to me when I'm going to tell a story and when I want people, what I want them to feel and learn and understand about why we decided to pick this. I get asked all the time when I cover high school baseball from kids, why him? Why is he getting an interview? Why does he get the story or they get the story, whoever it may be? It hurts me sometimes. It's not because that person who's asking me isn't worthy of having their story told, because I would tell everyone's story if I could. It's just that there are stories that are speaking to us that are begging to be told, that are screaming at us to be told, because I know that it's going to help a lot of people hear this stories of adversity, right? Stories of kids who have gone through a lot of different things, or their families have gone through different things. Because I said this to you earlier, like the most powerful thing you can do is make something relatable. We're all just craving relatability, and that somebody else has gone through what we've gone through or has felt the way we felt, right? That's a human thing, not just a work thing or a sports thing. So ultimately, when I'm going to tell a story, I don't want it to be unrelatable. I don't want people to look at it and be like, that doesn't even resonate with me at all. And sometimes you'll have people, of course, not everyone's going to relate to the story, but if I do my job right, I like to think that everyone will get something out of what they're watching.
I think that applies, Dani, to any career or any industry, right? It's not just broadcasting or journalism or writing. Relatability is so powerful. And so often I feel like in the world today, people focus on the differences and the gaps between us. But what people forget is that if you ask the right questions and you pull on the right threads, all of us are a lot more related and connected than we think. Yeah. And I'm curious, as you think about like preparation for storytelling and preparation for interviews and conversations that you have, give me like the Cliff's Notes on the Dani Wexelman preparation process. How do you get ready to tell a story?
That's the majority of my job, by the way. That's what I'm usually doing. I'm prepping for calling a game, for doing a story, for being a sideline reporter, for going on radio. Like the job is prepping and having information that you can then spit out in an entertaining way, in an opinionated way. But I would say I used to be less efficient. I think I found a way to really get the most out of my prep, because I'll be super honest, I get distracted really easily. And I am a procrastinator because I work better when I'm busier. And so I procrastinate and then I get my work done, but I could have used those hours better. So I'm trying to work on that personally. But I'd say that number one is I'm reading from a variety of different outlets, like coast to coast. I'm not just reading the obvious articles. I'm trying to read local, like where is that kid based? Where is the story based? Reading the people who are writing about them all the time, because those people are going to have the knowledge. The second thing would obviously be being able to speak to the source. So if I can always speak to the source and have firsthand quotes, that's what I'd always prefer. I hate going off of somebody else's work because that's not authentic, and I'm not going to regurgitate what somebody else reported. They did that work. That's their job, and it's my job to go back and not only check it, but go further. So reading a lot, social media, trying to dive through social media and see if there's any nuggets there, things that they like. You know, if I'm interviewing a high school kid or a college kid, I'll probably peruse a little bit and see if things stick out to me so that I can ask them about that. And then it's instincts. It's just instinctual. It's relevant. What's the point of the conversation? What's the big picture point of the conversation? And what's something that you can really dial in on and hopefully uncover something that nobody else has heard yet, right? That's the goal, is getting original content and getting something original from the conversations or the research that you do, putting things together. So if I'm doing radio, for example, I'm going to look big picture always, but then I'm going to look really, really close at their specific numbers, at trends. I was telling this to someone the other day. They were asking almost the exact same question. And I think it's important to look at those people and what they've been doing. What's that player been doing? What do I know intangibly about that person, or that I know about the sport that I can put together? So all of that combined, and ultimately, you know, you do all this research. I probably only use like a third of it. I don't even use all the research, but I want to have it because I don't want to be unprepared. That's probably like my biggest thing, is I want to sound prepared. I want to be able to know that if I do something live with a person, all that prep that I've done, I might not ask one question based on my prep, but when he or she gives me an answer and I'm listening, right? That's the key. It's not thinking of my next question. It's listening, that I could maybe pull from that background, all that prep I did, and combine it with something they said, and then come up with the best question. It's a lot. That's like very heavy, but I would just say like spending time sitting down and doing a lot of reading and research and enjoying that process, because that's the job.
I love how you talk about the different dimensions, Dani, of content that you're consuming to kind of get knowledgeable about a person or a subject, right? It seems like today, so many people they want the Wikipedia shortcut. They want to go and they want to read one bio or one description of somebody, but you've got to dig in. You've got to, like you said, read the local stories, read about the issue from all angles. I talk about a phrase called content diet, right? And it's basically equally, if not as more important as what you put into your body in terms of food, right? I mean, every day there's like a zillion sources of content. And is the content that you're consuming going to help you like reach your full potential, or is the content you're consuming going to harm you in your process to reach your full potential? So I'm always fascinated to talk to people about the content that they're consuming and the different levels of content that they're going to prepare for their job or for their day. Now, I'm curious, you do so many different things. You've got the studio TV, the radio, the sideline. Is the preparation different, or does it all fundamentally go back to, I'm going to be over prepared? If I'm only going to use like a third of what I've got, and I'm going to let the conversations go where they go. Does it differ in the platform or the medium, I should say?
It's all of it. So it does differ, but the foundation is the same. Yeah, because I think when I was younger, I'll admit, I felt like as a woman, I had to know more, because if I wanted to participate in the conversation, but also gain respect of my peers, that I needed to know more or prepare more. and I'll knock off being a woman now. Like, I wouldn't say that now, just as a person in my industry who wants to be respected. Yeah. So for SNY, for studio, that's usually based off of the day. Oftentimes, you have to have a little background as to what's been happening, but it's often that day. So, how do I deliver a punch on TV in about a minute? I think I talk for a total of, we like actually counted it up on a stopwatch in a 30-minute show, maybe 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, but ultimately like 5 to 10 minutes. That's pushing it. It's 5 minutes because there's a panel of other people. So 5 minutes, I probably do like 3 hours of prep when I get into the office for a 30-minute show to talk for 5 minutes and to say something that is going to spark interest, is going to be my personality, right? But also to teach people. I'm there to teach people because I care. Like, I genuinely care. So that goes back to my why. Like, why am I prepping this way? Because that's how I do my best. That's me giving you my 110, because anything else for me isn't good enough. I fall short. Of course, I fall short a lot. I fall down a lot. I misspeak. I forget things. I don't always know who the MVP was in 1980 of the World Series. Like, those things aren't inherent to me, which is why I prep. So for that show, that's the day, and then you kind of get to leave it at home. For play-by-play, that's probably a week of prep. You're doing interviews with the coaches. Sometimes you get the players before the game on the weekend or the weekday. I'm obviously learning as much as I can, not only about the teams, but the teams that they've played. What have they done? What have these players done? I'm deep diving on the players. I'm learning as much as I can. I want to know the history of the school as well, right? I want a little background into the field that they're playing on, the coaching staff, a little bit of everything. But like you said, when you're calling a game or when you're sideline, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but you're calling or you're talking about what's happening in that moment. So the background information is just like there. It's like my mattress topper, right? It's just extras, that extra added layer for me to be able to do my job the best. But to really be my best, it's to be present and to watch what's happening and react to that. And when I'm asking questions, it's asking something big. I like to do big, and then I like to go a little bit smaller depending on what we're talking about and what's happening, but also just following up, letting my other question go and following up. So just being very present in those jobs is really important. Sideline prep is different depending on the size of the game. For the College World Series, we were lucky. We talked to the coach every morning, both coaches of the game that we had every morning. So I got fresh information. I was trying to talk to players. This is me trying to go above. I'm trying to talk to players before the game as well, to either ask about the game before, or to, if I have a story that has loose ends or I want a first person account. Like, it's great to hear that you broke your leg and came back from it. But if I don't have anything firsthand from you, I just have a regurgitated story. That's not good enough for me. That's not the standard that I like to set. I want to be able to say, John told me. So that's important to my work. And so I try to talk to as many people as I can before a game to be able to have those firsthand accounts. And then when you get to the game, it's really just a crapshoot of what happens next. But it just goes back to, I care deeply about the stories and presenting them. I'm still working on that part, but I think that's what separates me from other people, is just the next step maybe I'll take to get that story or to share that story, because there's nothing better than having stories that people haven't heard and that I can add to the broadcast in a different layer, in a different way, because all the voices in the broadcast are valuable, right? I want to bring my value to the broadcast. So that's a little bit, I think, of how I do it for all my different jobs. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot, even for me, it's a lot of work all the time.
A lot of work. And I think about your comment there about hours of prep for 5 minutes max, where people are seeing you on the air. And I'm reminded of a conversation I had with Stanley Cup champion and New York Rangers legend Mike Richter, where he said, Andrew, I'm the goaltender. He said, go back to those days when you were kids, Andrew, sitting at Madison Square Garden, watching me on the ice. And if you had a stopwatch, I mean, I'm probably making saves for like 60 seconds of a 60-minute game.
Yeah.
It's all about preparation. It's all about loving the preparation and getting through the preparation on the days you don't want to do the preparation.
Yes.
And being over prepared. And like you said, you hit on so many cool things there, above and beyond. You go above and beyond, and you gave great examples there. You also talked about little things. You used the mattress topper example. I have a phrase where people ask, well, what if I remove this from the equation? What if I remove this from the equation? And I say, well, which ingredient makes cake taste good, right? Like, which ingredient you're going to take out, right? And I think in preparation, it's hard. If you start taking things out, say, I don't need that, I don't need that, it's a slippery slope where everything needs to work together to make it all happen. So Dani, as we're wrapping up, you've had so much success and so much professional growth, and you're on such a great trajectory. If there was one thing that you could isolate and say, this is an area that I'm focused on to continue growing as a journalist and as a broadcaster, like, what would it be?
Being myself, definitely. I think in broadcasting and media and entertainment, you can always look left and right. You can always peek and see what others are doing. You can have that information at your fingertips, right? Because we have social media, and then it starts a slippery slope of, well, I'm not here, or I didn't get that job, or that person has something that I don't. Someone's always going to have something that I don't. So if I think the secret that nobody really tells you is that, like, you're your competition. As much as I could sit here and say, well, there's a brunette who's doing this job that I want, that's not how it works. And that person has such a specific life path for them that has nothing to do with me at all. And like, as soon as I realized things like that, and I stopped caring as much about, I dyed my hair blonde. So when I got to New York, I started just adding some highlights. There's a thing called balayage. And so I had blonde in my hair. And in 2020, I lost my marbles, as did everybody else, and I went full blonde. Their pictures are few and far, but they exist. And there was a part of me that thought I needed to be blonde to have success, which is really silly when you say it out loud, because, like, who cares what your hair color is, right? Like, if you can do the job. But there are parts of this industry that can, like, seep into you and tear you down and cut you up and confuse you. What's your why? Like, stick to your why. So for me, being myself. So obviously I stripped the blonde, and I miss it every once in a while. I liked being blonde, but it wasn't me. That wasn't authentically me. And I think the reason that I've been able to build this life that is so specific to me is because I'm myself, and I'm genuinely like this. I'm the same here as I am somewhere else, as I am somewhere else, as I am in my personal life. I'm me, I'm Dani. And that's important to me, because you hear stories that so-and-so is this way to some people and this way to others, or whatever the situation may be. I don't really care about those things. Like, I care about being my best and being myself. I think I'm freaking awesome. Like, I'm really confident in who I am and the person that I've become and who I want to be. And I want to honor that person all the time. And I care deeply about those things. I don't care if somebody else gets the job. Then that must mean that they were supposed to have the job. It's not because I didn't do it well. It's not because I don't have blonde hair, or because I'm tan, or whatever it may be, right? So I think really, like, bringing it back to me and just being myself as much as I can, and just trying to let that rub off on my work. I think that's what makes me stand out, is me not trying to sound like everybody and look like everybody. I think my superpowers are what I look like and what I sound like and who I am as a person, because I've invested a ton in myself. And why would I not want that to shine through my work? Those things go hand in hand all the time. And so when you're the same person in your work, as home, as personal, as dating, as whatever, then you don't have to worry about everything else, right? I don't have to think, oh, well, I need to put on a face. Don't get me wrong. There are moments where I go into something and I have to tell myself, smile, like, show your teeth, smile right now. Like, sometimes you grin and bear it, but for the most part in my life, like, that's not the case. I am myself. And I think that that's something that I just want to keep investing in and getting better at and being even more comfortable with.
What a powerful message for us to end our conversation today, Dani. Your biggest competition is yourself.
Yeah.
And to be yourself and be authentic. Those are lessons that people at any stage of their life, at any stage of their career, in any industry can take something from. And I'm just so glad we had the chance to spend some time together and talk a little bit about your journey. I know you are just still writing so many chapters in the Dani Wexelman book, and I can't wait to see where all this goes from here. You are no question a tarp puller, like literally, Dani. I know you pulled the tarp, so certified tarp puller, but you are forever part of the tarp puller club. And you do the little things, you go above and beyond, you lead by example, and that's what's most important. So thank you for spending a few minutes with me this week, and we'll have to catch up again soon.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for making this platform available, because I think that it's so important to hear these voices, and to be included in that is honestly, it's super cool. I'm so grateful for you.
Well, thank you, Dani. I am grateful for you, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew H. Moses. That's Andrew H. Moses. And be sure to sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.